Stretching like a fan on three-level terraces on the northern bank of the Danube, Galati is the only city port of Moldavia. This was a sufficiently powerful region for its past to be tormented and full of dramatic events. Documentary attests ever since 1445, the city of Galati is the residence of the capital, but also the largest city of the county and the seventh in the country as population. Called the City of Lime Trees, Galati becomes a fairy tale land, a feast of the senses when the lime trees are in blossom. Each building on the large boulevards tells its story to any passerby wishing to listen to it, and no story resembles the other. Elegant and surprising, one of the beautiful constructions remarkable for its good taste of bygone times is the building where the County Council of Galati works. Built at the beginning of the 20th century, it initially hosted the consulate of Czechoslovakia, and later it became the guest house of the communist cabinet. Since 1990, it was called the House of Art, being the residence of the County Inspectorate for Culture. Starting with November 2000, the building has become the headquarters of the County Council of Galati, the place where the most important decisions are made and where today the history of the county is written step by step. The Administrative Palace, now the residence of the institution of the Prefect of Galati, which was designed and built by the great architect Jan Minko between 1904 and 1905. There is a clock on its gable whose sharp hours are marked by the musical phrases of the renowned waltz The Danube Waves, a masterpiece of the local composer Josif Ivanovich. The 60,000 exhibits in the History Museum Paul Pultenea represent an indisputable argument of the historical evolution in this region. Among the rare and extremely valuable exhibits is the grave belonging to Innocent's site, dating from the 3rd and 4th century AD, and the archaeological collection comprising artifacts coming from the archaeological explorations of Sucevene, Kavadineshte, Stoikani, Lunga and Barbosh. Such an extremely valuable historical vestige is Trajan's Wall, or the Wall of Galati. Being 23 kilometers long, it has its western end situated near Chandren village, close to the Siret River, and the eastern one at the edge of the Tuluchesht village, near the Prut River. Due to the orientation of the moat and its technical and tactical characteristics, it was attributed to the Romans, its role being that of consolidating the defense system of the Roman Empire on the lower Danube, or ancient Dobruja. Historians tried to find out whether this name is linked to the Roman Emperor Trajan, or a taking over of the Slav divinity Trojan. The house of Kuzavoda, arranged in the former house of the ruler's parents. Then the visitor can admire a car by the Dion Bouton, made in 1898. It is one of the 3 remaining cars still functioning that has belonged to the museum ever since 1956. The halls of the exhibition reflect the advance of science and technology in the 19th century, and also specific data about the fashionable sitting rooms of Galati, including furniture, weapons and clothes that belonged to the ruler and his wife. Think Pharmacy, the residence of the House of Collections in Galati, was built in 1900, being initially a drugstore and a home. Today, the museum called the House of Collections shelters the exhibitions indoor environment of Galati at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th centuries, and Makshai restitutions. The epoch atmosphere of the former exhibition is faithfully rendered by the presence of the pieces of furniture in eclectic style derived from Biedermeier. The latter exhibition, Makshai Restitutions, capitalizes some remarkable museum collections coming from the renowned photo shop of George and Jean Makshai. The House of Collections also hosts the exhibition Smaranda Bruescu, the Queen of Air. Known as the first female pilot in our country, she was the first woman in history to get the license of parachute jumper in Romania. She later became one of the first trainers of military parachutists. Costoche Negri Memorial House is located some 40 kilometers away from Galati, in the village bearing the same name, being declared a historical monument since 1943. It is arranged in the very mansion that belonged to the family of the great 48th patriot. The 7 halls present furniture and decorative art pieces, paintings, photos, and relevant documents for Costoche Negri's life and activity, his family, and his collaborators. The visitor sees specific atmosphere to Negri's epoch, even familiar due to the exhibits of a memorial value. Initially the headquarters of the 6th Company within the 24th Doromans Regiment of Tecuci, Hortensia Papadat-Bengescu's house was built between 1872 and 1874 in Ivest village. Its inauguration as part of the History Museum of Galati took place in 2009 with an exhibition called The Personalities of Ivest. The gates of Hortensia Papadat-Bengescu's house are open to those who wish to know both the life of the prose writer born in Ivest and of some personalities that lived there or wrote about Ivest. A last stop in our historical journey will be made in Sukhurlui, where Ioan Avram Dunuranu Country House hosts the exhibition Traditional Rural Environment, where the visitor can see specific aspects of the old rural homes, parted into distinct functional spaces such as the cooking hearth, the pantry for the loom, the sitting room, and the good room for the guests. This exhibition tried to recompose the interior space of a specific rural household. Inaugurated in 1967, the Visual Art Museum of Galati is the first Romanian contemporary art museum, and it was designed to present the newest tendencies of the plastic phenomenon. This museum was the oasis of the non-official pictorial art in a period when it was almost unconceivable, the communist period. This was the first and the only museum where it was possible to exhibit everything that was forbidden. Most probably, the non-conventionalism of the region, this Porto Franco spirit defining Galati, left its mark. The main patrimony of the Visual Art Museum is constituted by the painting, sculpture, graphics and decorative arts of the period between 1967 and 2013. This valuable patrimony belonging to the museum comprises Romanian art creations from the second half of the 19th century and from the 20th century. Most of the cultural inheritance, containing over 6,000 pieces, is conserved in the museum deposits, being exposed periodically in the exhibitions organized by the institution. The Museum Complex of Natural Sciences Răzvan Angeluța, one of the most important Romanian museums. The planetarium, one of the 5 departments of the museum, is on the second floor of the building. The Astronomy Observatory is also located here, the largest and most modern public observatory in the country, with a tractable roof and a last-generation optical system. There are organized exhibitions and thematic educational programs for all ages in the Museum of Natural Sciences. The museum specialists on conservation contributed to the arrangement of some temporary exhibitions that were highly successful with the public. The aquarium, situated in the basement, has an impressive collection of fish species from the river basin of the Lower Danube, the Mediterranean, and from the tropical freshwater ichthyofauna. Set up in 1990 as a section of the Museum of Natural Sciences, the Botanical Garden stretches on 18 hectares on the left bank of the Danube. The Rosarium includes a wonderful rose collection, among the largest in the country, numbering over 350 varieties. A particular corner of nature in the landscape of Galați is constituted by the Gârboavele forest. Located near Tulucești, some 15 kilometers northeast of Galați, it includes a forest reservation of national interest and a recreation space. The protected natural area Gârboavele forest stretches over 230 hectares, sheltering the natural wood habitats with species of downy oak and grey oak and the hill region, but also shrub species specific to the steppe. Another section of the Museum of Natural Sciences is set in this particular natural frame, the zoo. Spread over 7 hectares, this tourist objective of Galați shelters a varied collection of species of animals from all over the world. As we cannot speak about the county of Galați without taking into consideration the traditions that the inhabitants of this land passed to one another from generations, we'll stop again in the generous setting of Gârboavele forest at Petru Karaman Village Museum. This is an open-air museum reconstituted from an ethnographic point of view, the type of dwelling specific to our region, capitalizing stances of rural life on the banks of the lower Prut River. Effected within a cross-border project, the Village Museum of Galați reconstitutes on a small scale a hearth of the village. The architecture of the houses belongs to the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th. The patrimony of the museum includes traditional towels, hanging sheets and bedclothes in vivid colors woven of wool, silk, cotton or hemp that reflects a wide range of motifs of a real ethnographic value. But the cultural inheritance of Galatz County is by far more ample than what we find in museums. Galatz has valuable theatrical traditions. The name of the dramatic theatre in Galatz is closely connected to the name of the famous artist Fane Tardini Vladicescu. Settled in Galatz in 1872, the actress often required subsidies from the municipality to make a theatre for the locals. It did not happen during her life, as the Great Theatre of Galatz was opened only in 1922, and it was not until 2000 that the name Fane Tardini was given to the dramatic theatre. Moreover, the existence of Nye Leonard Musical Theatre certifies the musical calling of Galatz, a city where Josef Ivanovich composed the well-known waltz, The Danube Waves. The public library of Galatz is sheltered by the former Palace of the European Commission of the Danube, a building with a tormented history, which was almost completely destroyed during the First World War and then rebuilt in 1923. The European Commission of the Danube functioned on the premises until 1948, when it was dissolved, the building being given to the library V.A. Urekia. Constituted on a personal library, it bears the mark of its author. Starting with 1889, Urekia organizes his personal library as a state public library and leads it until 1901. The nucleus of the Library of Galatz is formed of what V.A. Urekia gathered during his whole life, completed with acquisitions and donations after its public inauguration. It is the richest bibliophile Romanian inheritance. Recently, the library launched the cultural brand Access Libre, which includes the literary salon, the magazine, and the National Festival of the Book. The Palace of Navigation. This elegant construction, designed by architect Petre Antonescu, was erected in 1912, using for the first time in Romania a monolithic structure of reinforced concrete. The Palace of Navigation houses the river station of the city now. Being a university center of tradition, the university called the Lower Danube, a prominent name of the Romanian educational landscape, could not be missing from the business card of Galatz. The birth certificate of the monumental building of the Lower Danube University in Galatz was signed on April 12, 1912, by the Attorney General G.M. Cantacuzino. Today, the Lower Danube University has 15 faculties, training about 14,000 students in 46 fields. An example of excellence promoted by this university is the Center of Hydrodynamic Research and Naval Structures, which has been functioning since 2001 within the Faculty of Ships, representing a structure created in order to make applied researches necessary to design ships. The values promoted in a Europe of knowledge and competitivity constitute landmarks of the teaching process in the Danubius University of Galatz. As Galatz understood that you can create your future with your own hands, it has permanently been a path breaker. The first park of information technology in Romania was inaugurated here, the ideal means of blending education and research, of offering the theoretical study with last-generation practical applications. It is no wonder, then, that Galatz is one of the vital industrial points of Romania. The presence of ArcelorMittal here completes the picture of a complex city from all viewpoints. It is still the largest steel mill in Romania, being the main support of the city economy. The idea of building a large steel mill on the eastern part of Romania, having access to the Danube, was first discussed in 1958. It started producing in 1968 when the components necessary to this process were assembled, resulting in the first steel produced in Steelworks No. 1. The activity increased constantly, the combine having 50,000 employees in 1972, including the neighboring industrial units. Now the mill produces 3.5 million tons per year. It is the only one that does not use electric arc furnaces, relying on iron ore and coal to produce a special type of steel, more flexible and suited to make steel sheets. Being an important port, Galati has had from old times a shipyard, ready to maintain and make new ships. In 1893 there is set up in Galati the plant of mechanical constructions and the foundry of iron and bronze, which is then changed into G. Fernick and Company shipyard, and later into the shipyard of Galati. Public life personalities take part in baptizing the ships, while every release to water represents a climax of teamwork received with joy and emotion. Today, the Damen shipyard of Galati is specialized in making river barges, river and sea tugboats, motor vessels, sea cargoes, ore barges, bulk carriers, collecting refrigeration vessels for fishing, dredgers and offshore oil rigs. Some of the most beautiful places of worship, places of pilgrimage and collectedness are found in Galati. The cornerstone of the Metropolitan Cathedral, Saint Hierarch Nicolae of Galati, was set on April 27, 1906, by Prince Ferdinand and Queen Mary. The cathedral stands apart in the architectural plan of Galati, being designed in neo-Byzantine style with influences from the Moldavian cult architecture style, and it shelters fragments of relics of more saints. This edifice is one of the most important tourist objectives in Moldavia, and it is, at present, the residence of the Lower Danube Archbishop. The Church of the Virgin Mary, now the oldest building in town. Its history starts in the 17th century, when 3 Romanian merchants founded a new holy sanctuary made of polished stone on the place of an old church. It was built in the particular conception of the century, the belfry being included into the church and the attic reinforced. These two architectural elements offered the church a second function, that of a refuge and defense place. The association of the tower belfry and reinforced attic is made in its own manner, differentiating it from the rest of the century foundations both in Moldavia and Transylvania. Another beloved holy establishment is the nunnery of Puciumani. Located in a wonderful hermit precinct, as if lost amid the century-old forests, mustered long ago by those who announced their joys and sorrows by blowing the horn, Puciumani Nunnery draws its history sap from the mists of time. It seems that around 1420, a few nuns raised a wooden church and a few cells held by the inhabitants of the neighboring villages. During the First World War, Puciumani Monastery sheltered and took care of refugees from Wallachia. Nowadays, hundreds of young people in the diocese counties take part to the service on the dedication feast day of Saint Trinity every year, talking to the priests on cultural, moral, and religious themes. Situated some 4 kilometers away from Tudor Vladimirescu village, between Galati and Tecuci, Vladimirescu Monastery is a place of pilgrimage and spiritual nourishment for those who find out its history when they arrive here. The nunnery, counting almost 200 souls, is on the 3rd place in the country after the monasteries of Agapia and Viratek. The construction of the monastery started in 1938. The architect Ioan Berecat designed it after the model of the Romanian monastery Prodromul in Mount Athos. The Neo-Byzantine painting was made by painter Hermeneanu, an apprentice of the renowned painter of church Belisarie in Bucharest. The Danube waterfront is one of the places that, once in Galati, every visitor must see. Its uniqueness in Europe is given by the metal sculptures made in the last 50 years by Romanian artists while working in some national creative camps. This is one of the most representative areas of the city, being the ideal place for walks, for the morning jogging, reading, or fishing. The story of Galati is told at every moment by each wave of the Danube that has been enfolding forever the city foothills. It is the witness of joy, of optimism and youthful exuberance brought by the tens of festivals, concerts and feasts organized by the city every year. The people pay homage every year on August the 15th, when it is St. Mary's Day. It is also Navy Day, Virgin Mary being the protector of sailors, an occasion for the people of Galati to take part with bag and baggage to the specific activities of this celebration. The religious service takes place on the riverfront of the city every year, and then the consecration and the release of the flowery cross in memory of those fallen in the line of duty on water. Their comrades have not forgotten them and pay homage to them over time with marches, tactical exercises on warships, and military maneuvers. Far from spinning the yarn of memories and history, far from wholly unraveling its proud present, Galati is waiting, forever impatient, to tell the stories that haven't been told here, to those who know how to listen, to those who, coming here, will wish to discover by themselves the fascinating things about the laboriously built world from times immemorial.